Start your writing, get over the hump, jump into fiction.
Oop. Somehow I think I skipped myself. I'm not sure what happened there. I hit unmute and it ended my little timer thing. So I have no idea. But I had this whole brand new timer thing and I was super excited about it. Hi, Zin from Illinois, and Gayla, and Wendy, and Kirsten, and Zin. Just great to see you all here. It's really fun to write together on Friday. And I know it's a holiday weekend, so I really appreciate you guys being here. And I was so, like I said, I'm so excited about the new trailer that I created. I worked like most of the afternoon on it in Canva because graphic design is not my skill set. And then somehow I accidentally cut it off early. I don't know. So then what we do is we write for about 15 minutes at a time. That's why they're called writing sprints, because just like sprints in track, you don't think about it, you just go. And I'll put up a writing prompt in case you don't have any ideas to write about today. And that way you're not hemming and hawing over, is it this word? Is it that word? Should I put this paragraph in or that one? And that's what they're designed to do, rather than just slapping 2 hours in front of you and saying, right, which for me is a huge amount of pressure. I really would rather go in little sprints like this. And I will tell you guys where this actually came from. So when my mother got sick, my mother died actually when she was exactly the same age as I'm going to be on Sunday, which is really kind of weird and strange in a lot of ways. But she died a long time ago, and I had taken care of her for several months. And of course, that put all my book contracts on hold. So I had all these books stacked up, but I was dealing with a significant amount of grief, having lost my mother. And the whole thing was very difficult to begin with. So anyways, I decided that I would just write in 10-minute bursts. Susan Meyer, I don't know if you guys know her or not, but she's an amazing human being and a great author. And she has this whole kind of 10-minute approach to things. And so I would literally set a timer for 10 minutes and write, and then go do something else so that I didn't stay in my head too long and I could just get some words on the page. I had 5 book deadlines stacked up waiting for me after my mother died. So I had to get it done. And I just did it in little 10-minute bursts until I could do it for 15 and then 20 and then an hour and then all day. So that's kind of where that came from, and how come I do it, because it really worked well for me when I was struggling. Nice to see you, KP, and Silver Alley, good to see you. And treating writing like a job if you want to make you money is very true. I think I have a video that's coming out that's maybe I've already talked about it. I don't know, because I record in advance. So I'm like, maybe I already released this one. I don't know. But yes, you definitely have to treat it like a job. I've always treated it like a job. I show up every day, I do my job, and some days it's hard and some days it's easy. I absolutely don't believe in muses or, some kind of little writing fairy on my shoulder. It'd be great if there was such a thing. But there are, to me, just days when the writing is hard and days when the writing is easy, just like any other job. And maybe it's because I've been writing professionally since I was 11. I know, that's crazy, right? For a bazillion years, I've been writing professionally because I lied about my age when I was 11 and got a job at a newspaper. So I've always, always, always treated it like a job, and it's always paid my bills. I've been very fortunate. So yes, very glad to see you guys here. And I want to get to the first prompt up here, and then we will go for the first sprint. So choose a scene in your book and twist the ending. Whatever your character is doing now, have them do the opposite. Like maybe they're going to go and rescue somebody. Maybe they turn around and leave instead. And think about what the impact is on the scene, on the character, on the next action, because that's kind of the way that you can get twists built into your book. If your character does the exact opposite of what the reader expects, the reader's like, wait, what the heck? Why'd they do that? Like I was just reading a book where there was a mentally challenged girl in it, and she picks up a gun and takes it with her when she leaves the house. And I was like, oh my gosh, why would she do that? Like I did not understand at all because she was totally scared of guns. But then when we got to the next scene, I could see why she did it. But wow, it was a big twist and surprise that I didn't see coming. So those kinds of things can really work well for you. Nice to see you there, Cheryl. So we're going to do our first 15-minute sprint. You guys can pick the prompt, you can write what you want, and then we'll come back. And if you have questions about your book, about your plot, about your dialogue, about your characters, about a video I put up recently, pop it in the chat and I will answer it, because that's what we do in between is we talk writing. And I got to tell you guys, this is my favorite day of the week. I know a lot of you guys say it, but it is for me too. So, all right, I'm going to play a little music and we're going to write and we're going to have fun. All right, 15 minutes. I'll see you back here. Minutes. That went quick. Nice to see you here, Cheryl. And Three Diva. I'm working on something different today. My husband and I went out to dinner last night before we saw the fireworks for the 4th of July. And he's like, this would be a great idea. We started talking about it because he is a movie buff. He is definitely not a book buff, but he's a movie buff. And he had all these ideas. And this little lady at the table next to us, thought we were actually talking about a real TV show, and she was trying to like find out what we knew about it and everything, and it was just funny. So I promised my husband I'll try it on Friday and see how it goes. And 3 Diva, nice to see you here. If you watch my videos, you know that Save the Cat is something I talk about a lot. Actually, I have another video on scenes that'll be coming out, I don't know when, a couple weeks, I guess. And I just put something in there about Save the Cat moments. Every book should have Save the Cat moments, particularly for irredeemable or seemingly irredeemable characters, or ones that are kind of caught in that murky gray area between black and white. Because you want the reader to root for your character, to really be like, yes, he's a great guy. I want to see him succeed. And so even if you have somebody who kind of treads on the wrong side of morality, if he has a save the cat moment early on, then you really, really do root for him. With Tony Soprano, it was the ducks in his pond and the way that he feels about his family. But those they were actually in his pool. Those ducks in his pool, they meant so much to him, and they showed that he had like emotions and feelings like regular people. He didn't just kneecap people all day. I'm not saying that Tony Soprano was the best dad or husband or anything, but it gave a dimension to Tony Soprano that made him relatable, which was part of what made that series so ridiculously popular. And I even rooted for him. Like, I kind of wanted to see it all work out in the end, and I did not like the ambiguous ending of that. Great job, Silverali and Wendy, on your words. That's awesome, fleshing out characters. I always like doing that. I was going to share the link to the live scene class, which is happening next week. So instead of a writing sprint, we are going to have a live scene class. I just thought that it would be easier to do it during our streams right there. If we do it on a Friday, because everybody is usually here anyways. We usually have quite a great amount of people that are here on a Friday anyway, so I thought it'd be easy to just kind of slip that in there. And yes, Zen, beat sheets have gone to the dogs. I've never really liked beat sheets, but that's just me personally. Some people really do like them. I'm not a big structure type person. Well, I talk about structure in my books, but I talk about it in a more broad stroke. Like, I don't need to know that on page 5 this happens, and on page 7 this happens, and on page 21 that happens. I'm just not super structured like that in general. I kind of like to write from my gut. I like to figure out the book in a broad stroke first, and then let the characters sort of talk. So in the beginning, when I was first writing, I would outline the crap out of my books, and then I found that I didn't want to write it anymore because I didn't care. Like, I already knew how it turned out. It's sort of like starting with the puzzle already done and then doing it, because I was like, I'm not interested anymore in how it ends, which is a complicated feeling when you have to write a synopsis for your publisher so they can design the cover. And a lot of times I'll write it and then never look at it again because I just want to forget what I thought the book would do. A Cricket in the Wall. Is that a book, Silverali? I don't think I've heard of that. And yes, Wendy, you're so sweet. If you enjoy this, please like the video and click like and notify me on the scene thing that I just shared. Because that way it will tell you when it comes up, and YouTube will show it to more writers, because if they see that other people are interested in it or like it or want to be notified about it, then they'll be like, oh, other writers might want to know too. One of the things that people say a lot when they come on the channel is, why is it so undersubscribed? Well, for one, the channel's relatively new, and for another, like, people have to like and subscribe for YouTube to be like, people like this, because the algorithm is just looking for what people respond to. They don't know if it's me or some other person down the street that's doing the videos. They don't really care. They look for what people are responding to. And Cheryl, I love that, rereading what I've written and trying to figure out what happens next. Yes. Well, we all are like that, right? And when we do the scene class, hopefully that will help you guys, because I'm going to talk about all of those things that go into a scene. When I posted on the community page about what you guys wanted to see, it was an overwhelming majority that wanted to see a scene from the middle of the book. And I actually ended up analyzing 3 different scenes in 3 different books of mine until I finally found one that I thought, oh, this would be really, really good. So I have done the highlighter method on 3 different scenes in my own books, which is that handout I have on my website where I have highlighted all of the different parts. And if I can pull it up during the next sprint, then I'll show you one of the ones that we're not going to be using. And yes, 3D, but I think I called it in one of my videos like a plantser because I'm kind of in between plotting and pantsing. I like to have a little bit of a plan, but I also like to kind of write by the seat of my pants. So it's a little bit of both. But a part of that is also that the structure of books has become a really innate thing to me because I've written so many. My little intro thing got cut off because of something stupid I'm sure I did when I started this. But I've written at least 100, published 85 or 90. Like I just kind of stopped counting after 85. So I've done it a lot. And when you do that and you read a ton, you develop this internal sense of what should go next. A Wally the Pixar movie. Oh yes, I love Wally the Pixar movie. That was so stinking cute. Um, and yes, that's fine, Wendy. No problem on the live screen class because what I'm going to do after the scene class goes, I'll eventually go in there and edit it down, take out the hey, how are you kind of thing, and just put up the class part itself. You guys will be able to ask questions. That's why I did it as a live stream so that you guys can ask me questions. Because when a video runs, you can ask a question in the comments, but I think it'd be a lot better of a learning experience for everybody if we could do questions and answers right then and there so you guys can really apply it right away. And yes, 3Diva, you would not believe how many people I meet who want to write a book who don't read. And just like how on earth are you even going to write a book if you're not reading? Like you have to read your own book, and a lot of people don't. You absolutely have to. It's like saying I want to play baseball, but I'm never going to watch a game. I'm never going to go to a practice. I'm just going to show up with a bat and a glove and go for it. It just doesn't work that way. You have to study what the masters are doing, what the great writers are doing. You have to study the instructors that actually have a history in the business and really learn from those people. I have a video that I'm debating doing about talking about where you get your writing advice from, because there's some people out there doing advice that have literally never even finished writing a book. And I'm like, you can't tell people how to write a book if you've never even finished one. You absolutely have to have finished one, and preferably a lot more than one, so that you really develop that true sense of what goes into a book. In my opinion, Kirsten, on skeleton drafting, that I like that. I like kind of just really keeping it, like I was saying earlier, kind of vague so that I have room to do what I want. When I first write a book, generally it's a lot of dialogue. It depends on the characters really, but a lot of times I forget to dress them. I forget to put them in a room. I'm just going with the dialogue because I've got a lot happening between the characters, and it reads a lot like a Robert Parker novel in the first draft. And then I go back in and I start layering in everything and looking at, well, what should I use in here to increase the emotion? What should I use in here to really show what the character's going through? And how can I draw this scene out a little bit more because it's emotional? Whatever my goals are for the scene, that's what I go back in and layer in. I have a video that's like, maybe it's a short, about how writing is a lot like making chili. You know, you brown the vegetables and the onions and peppers, and then you add the spices and you keep adding. And as you go along, you can't subtract with chili. You can with a book. But, you know, you're adding to kind of get it to where you actually want it to be. Okay. And yes, 3D, the middle is so tough, which is exactly why we're going to do a scene analysis from the middle. So I'll find one of those during the next sprint and put it up there for you guys so you can see it. Teaching someone something one hasn't even done is like the opposite of imposter syndrome. It is, right? It's pretty gutsy. I don't understand how you can have a how to write social media platform if you've never written or published a book. That is astounding to me, but whatever. I like to get down the emotions and then I can organize the plot. Yes, a lot of us, we all have different patterns and ways of writing, which is what makes this so cool. You guys just read the comments and you can see everybody has a different way of approaching it. And my way of teaching it is really kind of hopefully going to let you guys, well, that was a lot of qualifiers in there. my method of teaching is hopefully going to give you the tools you need so you can apply it to whatever method you use. If you do a skeleton draft, if you do an outline, if you start with the emotion or you start with the plot, whichever way, just so you kind of know these things have to be on the page, and I don't care when you put them in as long as you get them in there, because we all have different processes. Okay, so let's do another sprint, or I could talk all day. Believe me, I could just talk and talk and talk. It's been a low client week because of the holiday. So I would talk to you guys a lot. So let's do another 15 minutes and I will see you guys back here. And again, drop any questions in the comments. totally forgot to put the writing prompt up for you guys. Sorry about that. I just noticed it when I came back. I'm going to add the extra, what am I talking about? The extra little chapter thing that I did just so you guys can see it. Because then you'll have an idea of what we're doing for the scene thing. And let me go back though and make sure you guys have questions before you guys don't have questions before I go. Yes, Cheryl, the progression is hard. I have somebody else that wrote to me recently that is struggling with, raising the stakes and making sure everything gets worse before it gets better so that you can really make the characters go through a lot before they get where they want to go. There's this idea that people can write courses on anything they research. Yes, for sure. And really, you don't want to learn from people that haven't failed and succeeded. Because if somebody like wrote the first book that they had and it became a New York Times bestseller and everything was golden for them from there on out, I don't know that I'd necessarily want to learn from that person either, because they didn't have that journey of trying and failing and really figuring out what went wrong. Trust me, I failed a lot. And yes, Wendy, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks is probably not the most effective, but I have that too. And Kirsten's female main character is a trafficking victim who's attached to her trafficker, like a Stockholm syndrome thing, because that can help. There was like in Lost, Saeed, was he Iraqi? I think he was an Iraqi torturer who fell in love with one of the people that he was supposed to torture, but he had enough motivation for that. And when you make a character multidimensional like that, you make them lovable. And I really did love Saeed. KP, tips for writing in English when my native is Polish. I think reading a lot in English will help as well. I don't know how well you read English. And I don't really speak another language. I took a couple in high school and taught Latin for a little while, but nobody speaks Latin except the Pope. So it was never very useful. But I definitely think that just understanding the cadence of sentences in English by reading a lot of them can help you quite a bit. And Kirsten, how much telling in internal dialogue is too much if I'm really trying to show the reader what she feels for this guy when he's really standoffish? Well, that's definitely one of the things that I'm going to show you guys soon. And 3Diva, no, you don't have to read any of the trilogy of the Marvelous Monroe Girls in order to read one of them in between. I usually write them as standalones because I don't automatically assume everybody's going to read all of them. So I personally really love The Perfect Recipe for Love and Friendship and The Secret Ingredient for Happy Marriage, which I'm going to show you in just a second. Those are two of my favorites. I did love doing the Marvelous Monroe Girls, but I loved the women's fiction that I did. Great job, you guys, Silverali and Wendy and Zena, 3 hours of writing sessions. Wow, I just don't even know if I could do it that long. I like these little shorter sprints. Okay, so let me show you an example. I'm not sure how this is going to work, which is good because this is like a trial run for the class next week. But this is a scene analysis, and I don't know, can I bring it up bigger? Sort of. I'm not sure how good you guys can see it on your end, but this is, I wonder if I can make it big. Well, I can just make my page bigger. I don't think I can make it bigger on here. That's what I was trying to figure out how to do. Anyways, maybe I'll have to like blow up my PDF somehow, but now I'm hitting the wrong thing. But this is a scene from The Secret Ingredient for Happy Marriage. And I'm going back to the beginning there. And this is from the middle. This is from chapter 17. And I highlighted the goal, motivation, conflict, hook, showing, and telling. You'll see this little key up there in the corner that shows you here's the goal. Here's the motivation, right? The blue. Goals are red, green. Motivation is the blue. And I put conflict in yellow. And what I really want you guys to see and to take from what I'm showing you now, this little snippet, and what I'm going to show you on next Friday, is look at how much conflict is there. Yellow, 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 yellow. There is conflict on every single page. And when that was like a light bulb moment for me when I did the highlighter method, which is on the writingcompellingfiction.com website. I have a handout that tells you how to do this. When I did that to the books that I really admired, that I thought were really good, and then I went back and did this to my own book back before I got published, I realized I had yellow on the page. I had no conflict. So this was a really great learning lesson for me, and that's why I tell you guys to download that handout and try it. Somebody else had asked me last week, I think, is it supposed to be really hard? And it is. I can't tell you how many times I went through this, like looking for each of these elements to make sure that I had kind of figured out what every single thing was for you guys. So this is all about the scene in Secret Ingredient for Happy Marriage when Nora is deciding whether to tell her kids that her and her husband are getting divorced. It's a women's fiction. It's about a couple whose life is in whose marriage is in jeopardy. And I think when I do this for you guys next week, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make those pages bigger. I might just like make them into full screen things because this was a great kind of trial run here. But you can see, you know, that I have different goals in here. I have telling is in the red, showing is in the blue. And when I talk about mixing the two of them, that's exactly what I'm doing here. There are actually some sentences where there's showing and then there's telling and everything else. It's all kind of mixed together. And it teaches you a lot when you really tear apart well-done books to see what people are doing right. So that is what we're going to do next Friday. And like I said, I will find a way to figure out to show you guys on a full screen. I'll somehow make like slides or something that will do that. Maybe I can do it as a PowerPoint. I have it, as you all know, anybody who's been to the writing sprints regularly, I have technological issues with this StreamYard platform, but I haven't learned another one. So this is the one I'm using. And yes, that for Kirsten, the Stockholm syndrome will be a definite battle to overcome. I think that whole Patty Hearst thing where she had Stockholm syndrome, that was, I think, the first time that they talked about that. I just watched a whole documentary about Jim Jones. It was on Hulu, I believe, and the women that were in love with him that went along with what he did when he killed all those people, when he had all those people do the mass suicide in Guyana, and like what they were thinking and how they could just go along with that. It was kind of fascinating and super sad. So, and I'm glad you guys like the highlighter method idea. It was literally the thing that just put all the pieces into place for me before I sold my first book, because I did 10 books in 8 years before I sold my first one. So I really was missing something. And surprise, surprise, it was that yellow. Not enough conflict in there. That's exactly what I was missing. So hopefully that shows you guys a little bit of what we'll be doing on next Friday. I'm going to go through the whole scene from beginning to end, not this scene, a different one, and show you how the stakes rise and what I did to bring out the characters and the emotion and everything else. So if you've taken some of my classes before, you might have seen this scene before, but not dissected to this minutia detail, because this is really going to take every single word in that scene and tell you what it's doing there and how it's moving the plot along. From all storm chasers who probably watch StreamYard, it's difficult. Yes, it integrates really easily with YouTube though, and I'm sure there's a better way to do this. But then when you become a person on social media, there's a lot of software to learn. Like I had to learn video editing. I didn't know anything about that. I've had to learn graphic design. I didn't know anything about that. And then learning all of the different platforms and how to work with them. It's not easy, I gotta say. All right, let's do one more sprint, and we'll just do 10 minutes this time because it is getting later in the day and it's a holiday weekend. And I still have to cook dinner. Sad face. But let's do one more sprint and see how far we get. And if you have a question, drop it into the comments and I'll be back in 10 minutes. There we go. That was 3 streams. That was pretty good. I got a whole bunch of stuff worked on that new sort of thing that I'm working on. We'll see how it goes. I'll do it for 2 or 3 weeks and see what I think. And Kirsten, not so much of a question, but more like a rant. I can't stand how I think my writing is terrible and yours is better than a published author's book. You know what? We all think our writing is terrible. And yes, some people do need to learn how to be better. I was the first to admit that when I wrote all those really crappy books. And yes, there are some crappy books out there, without a doubt. There are some authors who get, hit by lightning and their books are published. And frankly, I don't think that they were super good. Now, granted, there are a ton of amazing authors out there. I talk about them all the time on the channel, but there are some that, you look at and you're like, I have no idea why this book got published. So that happens, but you can definitely use it as fuel to get you moving further on your journey with a writer. Um, and thank you for saying mine are good, because it would be awful if you were like, oh man, her books suck. And yes, and they teach a class on writing and their book is terrible. Yes, there are plenty of people that do that. What gets them published? What makes them popular? Am I working too hard? I don't think so. I think my friend Suzanne Simmons, who has passed away a long time ago, used to call it fairy dust. Like certain people get fairy dust and other people wouldn't. When I look back over the course of my career and how this went in this direction instead of in that direction, and I was frustrated at the time because this author got a better deal than I did, and I thought I was a stronger writer. Nobody knows who's going to get the fairy dust and who isn't, and nobody knows which book will happen. The first book that hit a bestseller list was the last book that I would have expected to have hit a bestseller list, so it was really confusing to me. Um, and sometimes authors get published because they have the right product at the right time, at the right phase of the moon, with the right editor. I mean, there's just so many things that go into it. I remember a friend of mine, she is the production editor at Hachette, and she sent me this diet book. The Hachette had rushed to publication. It had been self published in the UK and done really, really well. And they rushed it so quickly that nobody did a copy edit on it. And she sent it to me just to show me how many typos there were because they wanted it out so quickly that they didn't bother to do that. They didn't even have time. And so this crappy diet book is out there because everybody wanted to know about this diet. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was like the 30, 20, 10 or whatever that one was. So anyways, great job, Gayla and Silverali, on writing in between. And yes, 3D, but the crappy books can give you hope. If they can do it, I can too. Absolutely. I don't I don't really worry too much about what other people are doing in my space. I really just try to write the best possible book I can because I want whoever reads my book, if it's one person or 1 million people, I want them to feel impacted and feel like they got something that was worth the money they paid. And 110 words, Wendy, great job. And yes, Wendy and Gayla and Cheryl are all in my mastermind group. And so we've been going over their books for a few months, and everybody's kind of invested in everybody else's books because we've kind of built a little tribe in there. And it's kind of like, what's going to happen next? And every month when we get together and we talk about their books, we get to see a little bit more, which is super fun. So I think that's it, like 5:06 already. And you guys didn't have too many questions. So that makes it easier for me. But next week, do not forget to sign up for the scene class. That should be the link right there. Just click like and notify me, and that way YouTube will know to send it out to other writers, because I really want other writers to learn from this and to make their books better. And if you have a topic that you want me to talk about more, drop me an email, drop a comment, do whatever. And because, it's pretty easy to get a hold of me on all these channels, and let me know, and I'll do a video on that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next Friday for this scene class. And I have no idea how it's going to go. It's going to be pretty interesting. I'm kind of like working on it all the time. There's also an emotion, upping the emotion class that you can sign up for. The link is on my writing technology and me, not going to say. And thank you, Cheryl. I love the masterminds. And Kirsten, do I think self-publishing is harder? I think there's a higher bar to hit when you're self-publishing because there's a lot of crappy self-published books out there. We all know it. There's like your neighbor wrote some crappy book and gives it to you, and they're like, look how amazing it is, and it's not. I think that self-published authors have to try harder to earn the respect of other people because the crappy books have made it harder for the rest of us that write good books to get up there. I do think it's obviously more expensive because you got to pay for an editor and everything else, but I'm a hybrid author now. I do both self-publishing and traditional publishing. I still have somebody edit my self-published books. I don't just slap them out there because it's always good to have an outside perspective when you are just too close to the book. That's just the way it works. So yes, I always do that. And 3 Diva, I have to do a ton of self-promotion no matter what. One of my recent books that came out, and it was in either Costco or Sam's Club. I think it was in Sam's Club. My editor sends me a couple memes. I think they did a couple tweets, and I got a podcast interview. And it's like, good luck with the marketing. I mean, traditional publishing doesn't spend a lot of money on you unless you are a very big money maker for them. And I'm obviously not a very big money maker. I've made very good money, but I'm not a James Patterson by any stretch of the imagination. So you don't get a lot of marketing in traditional publishing either. So that is on your shoulders to build a platform and to get it out there. And like somebody said at the beginning of this, treat it like a job. You have to treat it like a business and treat it like a job. That's the topic of the mindset video that I just released. When I realized it was a product, this was a business, and this was a job, I treated it very differently. It's not my baby. It is a product that I am trying to get into people's hands so that they are impacted by it. So, and yes, Wendy, great job for the line copy edits and everything else. So yeah, 3D, it is a bummer. Back in the day, before Amazon existed, it was a completely different publishing landscape. And what I would get from marketing was completely different than what I get now. And that's just part of the problem of the industry and how crowded it is. So absolutely. I appreciate you guys for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next week for the scene class. And keep looking for videos. There'll be a couple more out next week, and I'll see you next Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody.